Hi everyone, and welcome back to Bushel Park Golf Club. So today we're continuing with on the course with Danny, and we get to the 7th hole. So 7th hole is par 3, plays uphill. It's not the longest par 3 we have, but certainly that uphill is going to add some yardage. So from today's tee box, which is forward because of winter golf now, we're playing 161 yards. With that slope, we're adding 10 yards to this hole, and it is all in carry. So if you do hit the ball quite flat, you are going to struggle to get the ball right the way up to this hole. So my advice for anyone who does hit it a little bit flat, don't go straight to a longer club. That's not necessarily going to give you any more distance, especially this time of year where it's all carry. Look at where the danger is and play a club that's going to get you to a yardage you feel comfortable with, rather than just going for a long club that's going to come out flat and you have even less chance of getting there anyway. It's more about control if you're not able to fly it all the way up there. So I'm playing this hole at 170 yards today. There's not much wind and the pin's at the front of the green, so I have got quite a lot of room back. So I can afford to go a little bit long here. So I've clubbed up to my 6 iron, which for me is normally 175. So I've got sort of 5-yard playing room to play around with there. With this carry, we should be able to pitch it onto the green, no real problems. Areas to avoid are definitely the 2 bunkers. There's a bunker right and a bunker left. Bunker right is a lot harder than the one on the left. But also the green slopes quite a lot on this hole. So anything around the front, I don't want to go too far back because it's going to be quite a tricky putt coming back down the slope. But certainly those 2 bunkers we're looking to avoid, and any of the short hitters we're looking to avoid the cops on the right hand side as well. It will swallow up the ball and you're not going to be able to pitch it from underneath it. It's really going to be a chip out sideways. So really just take into account all of your targets, things on this hole, and make sure you commit to your target line when playing your shot. So picking my target, take my alignment, pull the trigger. Okay, so we've come up short of the green, so I'm going to quickly recap a shot that we've done before, which is a finesse wedge. So a finesse wedge is basically anything within 20 yards of the greens. The reason we have a different type of wedge shot to the pitch shot is because when we get to this close to the green, we can't shorten the swing enough. And if you remember, the pitch shot is all dictated by how long the swing was. So backswing dictates how much speed the club's going to have, and that dictates the yardage. Well, I can't get any shorter, so I have to change something else. So what I'm going to change is the speed. So I'm going to keep my slightly longer swing and just slow the whole thing down and keep the club moving. So less speed to the ball, softer shot that's going to come out. Now from this distance, I haven't got much green to work with, so I'm going to actually add another adaptation to that, and that is I'm going to play what I refer to as kind of a floaty shot. So I open the club face a little bit, and I'm still going to do that sort of long and slow swing, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm not going to let my wrist set. So I'm not creating any hinge here. I'm actually going to try and keep the arms nice and straight all the way through. So I'm not going to hinge the wrists. And then what I'm going to do on the way down is I'm going to let the club overtake. So I'm almost no hinge, adding loft. So that's going to help me create some nice high floating shot and get the ball stopping a little bit quicker. This ball's not going to spin an awful lot from this distance because we can't generate speed, but this high floaty shot is just going to help me to get this ball under a bit more control. So no hinge, club overtake. Okay, club face a little bit set up, open up the setup, ball forward, weight forward as normal for my pitch shots, no hinge, under release. So I've only got about 8 feet between me and the flag, and I've managed to stop that ball within sort of about 4 feet. So it creates a lot of height, doesn't require spin to stop because it's coming from a much higher position, and just gets the ball grabbing up a little bit quicker. A slightly higher risk shot, but we're not creating a flop shot. So it's a little bit less risk than we'd have with a flop. Still letting the club go down under the ball, and that's where all the height comes from. Okay, so putting on the 7th green is one of the hardest parts about this hole. So obviously you've had the approach, which is difficult, but actually green itself is probably the hardest thing that protects this hole a lot. Depending on where the pin's placed, you get this multitude of breaks. So everything from high left side to low front right side, and we've also got everything over in this back corner as well. So everything funnels down from right to left on this hole. So I've actually got the camera set up, and you'll see the flags on the left hand side of your screen. But my putt's almost going to be starting towards you, and you'll see the swing on this ball as it's breaking through. Now, a couple of people have asked me, how do we look at breaks and how do we look at how the ball rolls and things like that. So I use a little bit of what we call Aimpoint Express, which you may have seen on sort of some of the tour players, where they'll stand facing where they're going, and they'll use sort of fingers to dictate how far the ball's going to break. So I use a little bit of Aimpoint Express, and what it does is it uses the sense of where your body weight feels like it's leaning towards, so left or right, and that will indicate which way the heel's going, and the fingers really determines how far the ball's going to break. So we also look kind of at a midpoint, so we get halfway down. We do the same thing, we feel how it's going to break, and then more towards the hole as well, but gives us an overshot of how this ball's going to turn as it goes towards the hole. So for this one here, it's quite a big break, so we're looking more or less towards the left side of the camera that I'm aiming towards. So you'll see this ball start towards the right hand side of your screen, more central from where the flag is, and we'll start to see this ball swing back towards the hole. Now, the first part of this putt's not going to break an awful lot because of the speed the ball's going to have. So really a lot of the break's going to come towards the end. So it's worth noting that if we was going the other way and the hole was cut more where I am here, the ball would actually break more, because the first part's got speed, last part, when it slows down, is where most of the break's going to be. But so I've now got my target line, and now what I'm doing is I'm treating this like a straight putt. I'm not going at the hole anymore. The hole's irrelevant. I'm picking a spot left of the hole. I know it's going left to right. And I'm imagining this ball stopping at that point. You can see how much as it starts to slow down, it starts to break in a little bit. Overread it a little bit too high on that left-hand side. So as it slowed down, it didn't quite get that full towards the hole. But a good hole to practice some putting on. If you get a chance, you've got no one behind you, putting two balls down, hitting some putts this way, good hole to practice on. But like always, only ever two balls when you're playing on the golf course. So on to the 8th hole. One of my favourite holes, particularly the tee shot here, because it opens you up for a few different options of where you can go, what shape you want to see, what club you want to hit. Big thing to avoid really for most of the longer guys is going to be the bunker down the left, for people who can hit driver and get themselves into that, or even a short mid-iron to long iron. Or for the longer guys, you've got the fairway bunker that crosses the two fairways. So depending on the wind, depends which one's reachable. What you can't necessarily see off the tee, but we all know is there, is that cluster of trees on that right-hand corner. So it's blocked out a little bit by the silver birch in front of us, but they are something to avoid really at all costs, because that's going to stop you from going close towards the green with your second shot. So really, the shorter you're going to hit this ball, the further left you want to be, the closer we want to be towards that left-hand bunker line. Okay, the closer we can keep it down the left-hand bunker line, the best chance we've got of getting our next one going towards the hole, and then the third one on. The longer you get, we want to start going more towards the oak tree or dead tree. And if you're not going to take on a club that you know can get past the corner of these cluster of trees on the right, then we can go more towards the right-hand side of the fairway or down that right edge. So I've got a hybrid in my hands today, slightly downwind, so I'm going to be going towards between the oak tree and the dead tree. Wind straight down actually, so it's not going to create too much of a curve for me on this one. So I'm going to pick my target line at one of those spots between the trees. I've got to be specific with what I'm doing. So I'll pick a clear target line and take my time with my address and follow my routine as always. Okay, so for those of you who didn't notice, off that tee shot, I lost my balance a fraction as I was in my follow through, and purely because I didn't quite time it right. So as a result, my ball's leaked down this right hand side. So the side I'm looking to avoid, it's not drifted miles off the fairway. So I'm probably a good 5-6 yards to the right of the fairway, but I'm past the corner. So I've got myself past a lot of the trouble, and I've actually got a shot towards the flag here. The one thing I've got really where I'm sitting now is the ball's going to be below my feet. So the ball being below your feet is going to make the ball move to the right. So what you've got to really look at is if I was to drop this ball, the ball's always going to roll that way. So that's the way it's going to want to move in the air. So I have to allow for that a little bit. Now for the shot I've got in front of me, I've got a clear straight line to the flag, but the pin's actually cut towards the right side. So I can use the fact this ball's below my feet to allow the ball to just drift towards the flag and not have to make me take on too much of a tight line with my tee shot. So my target line is really going to be just left of the flag, allowing this ball to drift in because of the way it's sitting on the downslope. Whenever you've got a ball on a down slope, I'd always try and get a practice swing somewhere that simulates roughly the same idea of what you're about to do. So there's no point in practicing ball above your feet if your ball's then going to be below it. We've got to make sure we're practicing what we're about to do. So I'd go through the same routine, back here, doing my practice swing, just getting a sense for keeping everything down. And the only real things I'm going to change on the balls below feet is I'm going to tilt forward a little bit and possibly open my feet a little bit wider as well, just to give me a little bit more of a stable base, to allow me to bend forward just that fraction more. I'm just trying to match really my spine angle to the slope. So if the ball goes down, I'm going to go down with it to try and keep the swing as similar as possible. So I've got my swing, pick my target line, and I'm going to go through my normal routine after that. So once I've sort of practiced what I'm going to do, nothing else has to change. I've rehearsed what I want to see. So I've hit my approach shot into about 12, 15 feet. This green actually doesn't have too many undulations in it. It does have a roll off on the left and a slight raise on the right hand side. So it will play havoc really on the shots you're playing in, but it doesn't have a huge amount of break when you're going from level with the hole. When you're putting from front or back, there's a bit more break to it, but actually being level, you're either really going uphill or downhill. There's not a huge amount of turn. So this putt I've got here, I'm going slightly upslope, but I'm going straight in the middle of the hole. So as always, I line up the ball to where I want to go. So in this case, I'm aiming at the stick. Then going to follow my routine, so rehearse, looking at the hole. And once I'm happy with that, I can then let myself set up, look at the target, look at the ball, let it go. I didn't roll that ball particularly well, wasn't rolling end over end, so it didn't start on my intended line, hence why it's missed to the right hand side, but what I did get was the pace right. Now the pace, really in this case, the pace is always going to be the key part that I want to always get right. The line's going to be down to what I read or down to where I strike it and things, but the pace should be something I can get correct most of the time. So if you want one thing to practice, start with pace control, and then we'll move on to direction. So got a tap in from par. Again, same routine. Line it up. Now I do this for every single putt, so I don't want to just step up and hit it unless it really is a tap in. I'm always going to follow the same routine. That way when I'm under pressure, I can fall back on what my habit is and not have to try and overthink too much. I can just get myself going through the motions. So that's holes 7 and 8 at Bushhill Park. Next we're going to be going on to holes 9 and 10, and we'll look at how to play the closing hole in this front 9 and the next par 5 at Bushhill Park. Thanks for watching as always. Please like, follow and subscribe, and for now, happy golfing.